So we're getting towards the end of the month, which means it's almost time for a monthly reset. But the issue is that I feel like trash. I feel absolutely awful. My household has been unwell for the past, almost 2 weeks now is what it feels like. At least a week and a half. Anywho, we've been unwell for a while. So today we're going to do the monthly reset because I need that cool, calm, and collected feeling for when we get to the next month. But we're gonna power it back, okay? So effectively we're doing how to do a monthly reset when you feel like trash, or like when you're sick, or whatever. Or at least my version of what that looks like for this in particular sickness. So let's get into it. The first way that we're going to start this monthly reset process though is by writing a list. And you may be wondering, Jess, why are you doing this on the computer? Typically you write this list in your brainstorming book. Well, this brings us to our first tip. In doing a monthly reset when you are not feeling well, make it as easy as possible. At the moment, with my current sickness, my thoughts are going super fast, even though my brain is super sluggish. So I needed something that I could get my thoughts out onto very quickly as they pop up, so that they don't just get lost in the goop ethos that is my brain right now. For me, that is typing. I type faster than I write, especially when I'm not feeling well. So typing my list this time rather than writing it out is just one way that I can help myself. You may notice that this headshot looks a little different to the one that we had at the very start of this video, and that brings us to our second tip, which is if you need to put off your monthly reset until you feel just a skimmick better, you should do that. I wasn't actually able to have a shower yesterday because with my sickness, I have put off my laundry to the point of having no clean underwear again. So I just ended up being a gross goober hamster sitting on the couch yesterday, not doing much of anything because I literally just couldn't bring myself to get anything done in the way of the monthly reset. And that's fine. I'm sick. My first priority should be getting myself better. Yes, the monthly reset is one of the ways that I can make myself feel better, but if I don't have the energy to do that right now, that's totally fine. You can just put it off. You don't actually have to do it before the month starts either. You can just do it when you're feeling better again. So for me, that is today. It is just the next day. I'm still unwell, but I'm feeling well enough to get some of these things done. As said though, we are starting with a brain dump, and I'm effectively just putting anything that comes to mind on this list. The list will end up having reset things, yes, but it'll also have things like do my laundry so I actually have some clean clothes to wear, or put away my iPad that's been sitting charging on my floor for 2 days, maybe put away my suitcase from our trip, and maybe also get my suitcase repaired because it got broken in transit, and put away the comb that's been sitting in the spare bathroom since the end of February. It doesn't necessarily just have to be things that I'm going to do as part of the monthly reset, so even if it's the most random ass thought that absolutely would not be part of the monthly reset, we're gonna reward ourselves, we're gonna write it on the list. Good job you had a coherent thought, let's put it on the list as a reward. Naturally, as we go through this listing process, my brain will be having thoughts about what it actually wants to do as part of the monthly reset, so those are the ones we're gonna pull out and actually action as part of this process. The rest of them can just sit there, they don't need to be put anywhere else right now. The idea is that I would put these into other relevant places like my future me problems list or in my long-term collections or wherever they need to go. But because my energy is limited right now, it doesn't need to be a right now task. Got a hoodie on now because comfort is important. Another one of the things that I do to make my reset process easier every month, not just when I'm feeling unwell, is making sure that I have a set sequence of steps to carry out each month. By making the reset process more of a routine, you know which steps you're going to include each month, which means not only do you get yourself into a rhythm with doing one step after the other, but you also don't have to use mental energy with each subsequent month coming up with those steps again. I know that for my reset process, we start off with something like a physical space reset, so typically tidying up my office. We then go into a physical self reset, so things like a hair mask, a face mask, that kind of thing. By having the steps be the same each month and in a similar sequence, it means there's less friction actually getting into the reset because I don't have to spend time figuring out what to include and what sequence to put it in. With that said, when you are not feeling well, doing all of the steps in your regular reset can feel like way too much of a task. Very much the case for me today, but having the sequence list of things that I usually include gives me a starting off point for thinking about which ones of these are actually the most important. Which ones do I need to include this time around? If you're watching this and you're not feeling unwell though, something that could be really good to do for your future possibly unwell self is make a version of your reset that is already pared back, that already has the key elements identified, that only includes the most valuable of tasks. That means that your future unwell self won't have to try and do this when they are feeling unwell. They'll thank you for it. In terms of making your simplified list, you can either do it by eliminating steps or doing kind of a substitution or a simplification of your steps. If you want a separate video on making a simple monthly reset process, do let me know in the comments. But you can see my typical monthly reset has the physical environment reset, the self reset, digital reset, the budget review, the goal review, and then the planner review. After that, we then do a retidy. While all of these steps are important enough to be on my regular reset process, I, as said, do not have the energy to do all of these. So for me, it's very much about picking out which ones are the most important, which ones are going to bring me closest to the cool, calm, and collected self that I would like to start the new month with. So we are taking the elimination approach and making my reset a little bit simpler for my sick self, and that is identifying the most important elements, of which I'm pretty sure is populating my planner. That is going to be the most important reset task I can do, so I have an idea of what's coming up. Having that kind of clarity is going to make it a lot easier when I actually am feeling better to decide what other things I can fit into my schedule. An additional part of that is having at least something on my action list. I've found that this year so far, with having my action list populated before the month starts, I am much more likely to actually get things done. Steps like my review process and reflection, I'm not going to focus on because honestly, I'm not really in the right mindset for it. I do feel like I need to feel better before I can do that, or at least do it in a way that is actually going to be meaningful and doesn't have me in a super negative mindset, just feeling like down and sorry for myself and yada yada yada. So our reset for today is mainly focused on populating my journal. Normally, the journal part of my reset would involve going through each of the pages of my monthly setup and making sure that everything had been filled in and things had been checked off and things like that, but that's just way too much for today. I would also like to fill in my monthly review, but as said, we're going to wait until I'm in a bit of a better frame of mind before I do that. I would typically also go through my weekly logs and make sure that I've pulled out all the tasks from there that still need to be done. Obviously not these 2 pages, but from here on out I was actually using it. But again, this is a task that I can put off and wait until I'm feeling a bit better. Instead, what I'm mainly going to focus on is getting my April pages populated. I've already populated my Patreon tasks. I'm not going to populate my YouTube videos just yet because I haven't actually sorted out what my release calendar is going to look like. But starting with the easiest, we are going to go to the monthly log and put in the events that I have coming up. Again, having my schedule completely filled in for when I am feeling better is just going to be a lot more helpful. I'll have a much clearer picture of what's going on and when, which will allow me to figure out when I can actually fit in the tasks that I may have been putting off while I've been sick, as well as the ones that I would typically need to do anyway. To fill in this one though, I'm just using my Zig Clean Color dot marker to put in a little dot for ticking off when that event has passed, and I'm writing in the event with my Papermate Inkjoy gel pen. At this stage, I know that this is not all of the things that I have going on in April, but it does give me a pretty good starting point. Each of these little triangles here represent a YouTube video, so I'm going to go put in what those videos are once I know what they are. And all of the little O's or circles along the side on Monday is for my live streams. And once I know the topics, I can write those in too. The other pages that I have for my monthly setup in April are my actions list and my habit tracker. And as said, I know that having these filled in before the month starts is a surefire way to mean that I actually use them and make good use of them. But that also requires me to have finished my goal setting, and I haven't actually gotten completely through doing that yet. The actual goal setting process is one that's a little bit more involved and requires a bit more brain power than I have the energy to put in right now. And that kind of brings us to our next tip for doing a monthly reset when you're sick, and that is take your time with it. I could try and push through and do all of these steps while sitting at my desk, like really nutting through my action plans for each of my goals, making sure they're completely filled in, and then filling in my action list for the month ahead. But 1, I'm not in the right mindset to do it, and 2, it would use up so much of my energy that would probably set me back in terms of my recovery process. That is not the aim of the game. Remember, the number 1 objective is to get better, and forcing myself through a monthly reset process is not going to do that. What I can do for myself though is put down one-off monthly action, which would be to finalize my action plan for April. And although that feels like kind of a cop-out, like, you know, oh gosh, you populated your action plan just by saying populate your action plan, by having it written down, it gives me a clear focus of what needs to happen next. What I could also actually do, which is quite similar, is writing down, finish populating my action plans for each of my separate goals. It's just one of those unfortunate things that my sickness seemed to hit just when we were getting ready for quarter 2. And while yes, it would have been nice to start quarter 2 completely ready, clean slate feeling, all of that kind of stuff, I'm not going to let it deter me from making progress next quarter or next month. Although this version of the reset doesn't necessarily give me that same kind of clean slate feeling that satisfaction of being cool, calm, and collected for the new month, it is still better than nothing. I can say with confidence that I do feel a lot better knowing what's coming up in the month ahead now as I've actually done my reset process, compared to before where I was just sick and feeling a little uneasy about the month ahead, not really knowing what to expect, not having a clear picture of what was coming up. Although at this stage there's still a lot of uncertainty, not knowing when I'm going to feel better or how much I'm going to be able to get done in April or before April starts. Now as the reset is over, I have the tools I need to hit the ground running when I am feeling better. I have my brain dump, so I've got my list of things that I need to do when I'm feeling better. I have my calendar filled in, so I know what to expect in terms of time commitments. And I have the start of my action list filled in, which is a good feeling. While this reset process was a little different to usual, we do of course have our playlist of all of our other resets that we've done, whether they be monthly or weekly. So if you're looking for some more inspiration for your reset process, do be sure to check out that one. I'm gonna head downstairs and get back on the couch and be a gross goober hamster or whatever I was calling myself. But until next time, bye!